Welcome everybody to Darksiders Warmastered, the 7-year anniversary of the initial Darksiders Warmastered walkthrough. This is going to be, I believe, episode 8, and today's episode will be strictly focused on 2 trophies. Today's episode will be the most difficult for me to record for a variety of reasons. So last episode we did manage to defeat the Stygian. In this episode we'll be strictly focused on getting the horseback achievement. So that's going to be our Dark Rider achievement, and that's going to be our Horsemen achievement. So last episode I counted, we actually did 2 laps of this area. At least what I'm counting is 2 laps before I'm doing this episode. So this episode we're going to be starting off with the 3rd lap. This is going to be our 3rd lap of the Ashlands. So the whole point of this is to show you guys how long it takes to get these 2 trophies. It's going to be about a 2.5 hour episode. I'm going to do what I can to make it interesting as far as commentary goes. I got a few topics lined up, but for the first half hour we're going to focus in on these trophies. So 1 trophy I get pretty soon. Okay, so each lap has 10 or 11 Phantom Guards, which are the blue demons. The Phantom Guards themselves are really interesting. One thing I never noticed about the Phantom Guards, I've played this game so many times, is that those guys have little stubby wings to represent that they are fallen angels. And these guys, I finally learned that they were called the Abyssal Riders. So we got 14 of these. We got 4 of these with each lap. 14 enemies total per lap. About 14 or 15. Because I could swear those Phantom Guards, sometimes you get 11 of those, sometimes you get 10 of them. I think the count on those is a little inconsistent, but that could just be me. Maybe I'm not counting properly. And I don't know what happened there, but this is actually a big problem. Get on your horse as soon as possible, because these guys can do a ton of damage if you're not careful. You saw there, like 1 hit did almost a full health bar. I heard these guys are going to do some major damage. So I pretty much panicked out of that, but that was actually a pretty good move because they were close enough to get hit by the transformation alone. I do wish that the transformation didn't take your whole chaos gauge. I wish it did just drain it over time. That's one of those things that they improved in the sequel games. Okay, enemies that spawn on the way back. Each lap has 24 to 25 enemies. And it can even go between 24 and probably 26, because if you get 11 of these guys each time, that'll be 22, and then you got 4 for the Abyssal Riders. So these guys don't always respawn. It depends on, I believe, positioning and the amount of time it takes you in the area with the Abyssal Riders, if these guys spawn or not. I think you got to get fairly far away from this valley And what is this? Is this a canyon or a valley? My geography knowledge is not very good. It was actually one of those classes in high school I actually was abysmal at. I failed it in 9th grade. But between me and my buddy, we both failed it. And I feel like the teacher wasn't very good. But I was also a shit student in 9th grade, so I don't know. Alright, this will conclude our first lap of the Ashlands. And not our first, but that was our 3rd lap. And so this will technically be our 4th. I will have the timestamps for each individual lap in the description or the comments, maybe both. But I won't. I was thinking about like actually like pointing out every single lap. Maybe I'll do that. I feel like I won't do that though. But it does take the entirety of the episode to get every single of these horseback miles. Worst achievement in the entire series, because there's just not enough content. Like, you have to make up the content yourself to actually make this achievement fun, this trophy. So what is kind of fun, what doesn't take very long, is the horseback kill trophy achievement, and that's the one we're gonna get. That's the one we're actually focused on at this exact moment, is the horseback kills. The cool thing about the horseback kills is it does allow you to get the souls you need to actually buy some really cool weapons and abilities, should you need. Buy new moves for your weapons. You could buy the scythes if you don't have them already. You could buy wrath abilities also. It's really cool. I don't know what happened with that horse. I want to rewind it. I think it got caught on something that it wasn't supposed to be on, and it just evaporated. Yeah, I want to rewind it, but I want to also sync up my voice track with the footage, so not gonna rewind it. These guys give quite a few souls. I believe, what was it, 120 a piece, or is it 110? These guys give 120 a piece. So if you do them, you know, each run will get you 480 of 480 souls, basically. And the basic enemies, the Phantom Guard, they give you 10 souls a pop, is what I counted. And if there's about 10 of those, you get 100. So altogether, you're gonna get about 580 to 590 souls per back and forth. A total kill is 1668, and the total miles is 121.45. So this time, as you saw, did not get these enemies to respawn. And that's going to be a tactic right here that I use to actually make these guys respawn faster, is to save and reload. What I am going to do here is I'm going to go all the way back. You can manually save, but you can also auto save. Whenever you see that auto save something, you can auto save and then reload the auto save. At some point you're going to want to make a manual save if you do that enough times, because anything can happen with those auto saves. But right here we got the auto save, so we could just reload. That would automatically spawn the enemies back. But here I'm just gonna, you know, go off the beaten path a little bit. You can easily do that and still get your horseback miles. what I recommend is just do whatever you want to do on this part to make this interesting to you. So if you want to just ride through here because it's a little bit different from that path, I say do it. But the easiest way to do this is the way I did it on that first guide, is just to go in circles. You just want to tape your controller, or position your controller. If you got a rubber band it, tape, whatever you have to do. The rubber band method is like the easiest way. But whatever you have to do to get where to go in a circle, over and over, you can just have them do that for the 2.5 hours. I think if you have them do that, it'll take less than 2.5 hours. And that's strictly for the Dark Rider trophy. Or sorry, that's strictly for the I always forget which one is which. I think, yeah, the Dark Rider trophy is the Miles trophy. Yeah, and I debated actually if I was gonna record this whole thing, and it's actually slowed down my production episodes. I've been just mentally psyching myself out, because of course, as always, life's life, and so I'm like, man, do I really feel like recording this episode? Like, I could be doing anything else but recording a 2.5 hour episode for 2 trophies. But I think it's important to actually show the grind as well, like just to show how grueling it is. So I got the episode before where I like shortened it. I turned a 2.5 hour grind into like maybe 20 minutes or so, maybe 13 minutes. I'm not sure how long that episode was, but I increased the speed, you know, to something absurd, and you know, got the viewer through it. But this time I just want to show the whole thing. There's a ton of ways to improve this grind, man. One thing, they could have just cut the miles in half. That would have actually been adequate. 1 hour grinding, I think, would have been enough to get the point across. But the 2 hours was excessive. And if you want that, I think it's 100 miles, right? You get 100 miles on a horse. If you want that, you have to give us something more to do than like one stretch of combat and one stretch of riding, you know? You got to extend that a bit. You got to like make this desert area a little bit bigger, put more stuff there, more obstacles even. Which is why I personally say this game needed some more DLC. This was the 5th lap, by the way. We're about to go into the 6th lap, and for some reason, the numbering convention on these laps coming up are gonna be strange. So this is the last of these like lap and a halves, because that's kind of what I've been doing here, is like a lap and a half. They've been full laps, but after this they're gonna go to short laps, is what I call them. So ignore my way of classifying the laps. What's important is that I went to a place and I came back. So got our mileage there. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I guess save it. So we're gonna count going to a place and coming back as a full lap. Like going to a place and coming like all the way back. We're gonna count that as a full lap. Okay, so this one apparently is what I deem as a short lap. So I go here and do what? These guys have not respawned. So I guess since we're so close, it would have been better off to go the other way and then to come back this way. Since they spawned us here. Or it would have been better for me to like actually go all the way to that cave and then to reload once we got inside that cave. So I think I'm just gonna go to the cave on this part. So that's almost the half a lap, but I went outside to the part with the Abyssal Riders first. So I guess you can count this as a full lap. I don't know. I don't know how we should count that really. This probably should have been designated a half a lap because I didn't go back to the starting point. Okay, this is probably a save and a reload. Although I think if I just rolled all the way back, I could have spawned the Abyssal Riders, and once I defeated them, I could have spawned the Phantom Guard. But I suppose at this point I wasn't taking chances. I just was very focused on getting the horseback kills, which you can actually be very laid back with the horseback kills. It actually doesn't really matter how you do it, because what happens with me here is that I get the horseback kills way before I get the miles. So you could be very casual about this. You can just ride back and forth, and eventually the enemies will respawn. Eventually you will get those horseback kills without the respawning method, but with the respawning method, the saving and the reloading, you at least ensure that you're always getting a constant amount of souls, what's probably better than the saving and respawning method is just finding out the particular areas where the enemies respawn. I wasn't really thinking about that as I was recording this. Again, this is footage from like 2 years ago, so if I was recording this like live, which I kind of wish I did this time, then I would have, because now I'm thinking about it, I would have found the points where the enemy spawn, and then I would show you guys like where those points are. But it's not really difficult to get the enemies to respawn. You just have to go a decent amount of distance away and then come back. So here I would actually, there is a glitch here too that one of the viewers told me about. So these guys are going to scare me away for some time because they're going to do a shit ton of damage. But actually here, where this wooden platform is, there's a place right there, that wooden platform there. You can jump down there, and there's like a deep well there with a pool of water. You can actually jump down into there, and then come back up, and then climb back up, and then these enemies here will respawn like crazy. Like there'll be a ton of these guys here. So that's something I want to show you guys at some point. I might not even be able to get around to it on this walkthrough, but it'll definitely be its own video for sure. Because I've personally never done that. I've never done that glitch, but then I've seen it after that viewer told me about it. And I'm gonna give that viewer their kudos also. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head. That was an awesome tip. So yeah, one thing you could easily do is just so you take these guys out, just keep riding, you know, all the way, and then turn around. I think if you get past the there's these arches where the ashworm destroyed the path. I think if you go on top of those, then I mean you go between those. Like, I hope I can show you guys here. Nope, I don't show you guys. But this is short lap number 8 apparently. So there's like a ridge, or like a kind of like where the cliff is. There's a opening through the cliffside that you can go to, and then that leads to the entrance of the Ashlands. You guys could go over there just a little bit past that cliff and come back, and I think these guys would respawn if you go that far. I'm talking like just through that opening from where the 4 Abyssal Riders are towards the start of the Ashlands. And if you just go through that area, I think that should respawn these guys like each time, but don't quote me on that. I wish I did the research ahead of time, but it's pretty difficult for me to just like find the time to just record these things. It's crazy, we're already 22 minutes in, so we're actually closing in on our Horseman trophy. We're getting really close to it. And this will be lap number 9 here. And now that I've hit this point, the laps get a little bit more consistent. From this point, I'm going to figure out what the route looks like for me and stick to that for pretty much the rest of the video. Now, taking these guys out is actually a lot of fun. Like, if they just kind of elongated this area, put more enemies here, this would be a lot more fun. I think really that's the key to it. If they really just put more enemies here instead of just the wide open valley here with like hardly anything here, then I think that would have made this a lot more interesting. If they like tripled the enemies, that would make this a lot more interesting. And maybe if the Stygians, like the Stygian spawn, the ashworms, maybe if they respawn too, this grind will be like so much more interesting. Like, it's fun fighting these guys. They're so damn tanky too at the end of the day. And they're actually really scary. Like, you guys are gonna see, they're gonna tear me up. Love their moveset. Awesome. There's our Horseman trophy. Kill 150 demons from horseback. So we got that started actually really as soon as we got ruined, because there were demons for us to take down when we got ruined. But then once that we hit that Stygian boss fight, like right before that, we had that like that area that was full of demons. So I think before we even got out here, we probably had maybe like somewhere between 20 and 50 kills already on horseback. Look at that, one hitter quitter, man. One hit, one health bar. Alright, got our Horseman trophy. So the rest of this is going to be dedicated to one trophy. We got the Horseman trophy at like 24 minutes and 30 seconds. And like 2 hours is going to be dedicated to the Dark Rider trophy. 2 freaking hours. Which is insane. Alright, this is lap 10 by the way. 10 laps already. Before the half-hour mark. I think if we had, I mean, technically it's only 8 hours before the half-hour mark. If we did have the other 2 laps, that would probably be like 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes is like 10 laps. So 20 laps is 1 hour. Which doesn't quite, no, I think that's probably right, because I do take, actually really soon I am going to take a detour to get some HP back. So I think that math might be correct. Each lap is probably around 3 minutes, and so every 10 laps is probably a half hour. So truthfully, you'll probably only need an hour and 30 minutes to do what you gotta do to get these 2 trophies. If you're efficient, I guess. So right here, taking a detour, and got a little bored doing a horse riding trophy, and I definitely need some HP back. So this is a good time to tell you guys about the enhancements you have. If you need HP back, you can easily equip the Bloodthirst. I was using the Reaper enhancement because the Reaper gave me additional souls, which really comes in handy when you're taking out so many enemies on horseback. So this thing could be a little bit better. I feel like it should take some HP per hit. It's like every couple of hits you get HP back, or maybe with like the finisher attack, like War's final attack from the combo, you get HP back. It's really strange. Whatever math they do doesn't seem to math properly. Like it makes this very inconsistent to use, but still better than nothing. Still get your health back. So I do got some topics for you guys. We're going to cover those in just a bit. I'm thinking around the half-hour mark. So let's see if I buy anything. I'm going to buy Ricochet Haze and Harpoon Tackle 2. I don't know why I buy Ricochet Haze, to be honest with you. Or Ricochet Blade, I think. Crossbow to be thrown between nearby enemies. Okay. Sorry, I buy Ricochet Blade, not Ricochet Haze. I think because it was cheap, it was only 500. And then Harpoon Tackle too, because we use Harpoon Tackle quite a bit. Alright, we're gonna go to the choking grounds. I think because I just wanted, I thought that would be a place for HP farming. I guess because there's more enemies there. I'm speeding this up because I was wasting time, I think, looking for the secrets of these areas, the pickups. Because I always forget which choking grounds areas are, I mean, which serpent's hole areas have the secrets. Every single time I forget. Okay, there's a ton of enemies here. So I didn't want to take any chances. I didn't want to waste any HP. So I just like blew these ladies up. Blew these wraiths up. So yeah, whole point for being here to get HP. These bats easily give it. Jump and grab them for easy HP. Hit this guy with the full combo with your Bloodthirst sword. This might have even been better off give you HP over time. I want to see if there's like a way to make the effect on the Bloodthirst stronger. Okay, what's the best way of using this one? That I have to experiment with. The cool thing is I do have builds planned for you guys, like build playthroughs planned to maximize the various enhancements and weapons. Most of the build playthroughs are going to be themed. Like the first one I got planned for you guys, the one I recorded already, is a playthrough called Death's Little Brother, where we basically cosplay as Death. So that one was a lot of fun to do. Can't wait to share that with you guys. But we're going to be doing other themed playthroughs as well. Full combo. Alright, one of the topics I have for you guys is basically talking about just stuff about the series that I love, right? In comparison. So I want to talk to you guys about what my favorite game in the series is, like how I rank them overall. These are topics I have for like bigger videos later, but I want to actually talk to you guys about some of that stuff. I want to finally talk to you guys about which Horseman is my favorite. I might have touched upon it before, but I feel like this is a good time to actually kind of have that discussion with you. So like, which Horseman is my favorite? Who's the strongest Horseman out of the group? Which one is the actual leader of the group? So a lot of you guys already know this stuff, but kind of a topic I want to cover today. And also, there's some cool stuff like who's the favorite character out of the background cast, you know, the non-Horseman cast. So hopefully we can cover all of these topics today, and a few others as well. But that's how I plan to fill the time in today, just to cover some things like that. So just pulling these wraiths one at a time with the gun. Great idea. And then showing off our impressive block counter. This block counter is so strong. Definitely glad I started relying on it more and more this playthrough. Big eye opener. These guys are easy health. Squeeze them up. We can pull these one at a time as well. And I do apologize for the detour. I don't know. I guess I just did it to get HP back, but you guys don't need to do this to get HP back. All you need to do, equip Bloodthirst, and then just go back and take on those Phantom Guards in the valley. That's all you gotta do. That's what I end up doing anyway from here. But if you do get bored, of course you can go anywhere in the world. This area probably has the most enemies. And the best mix between strong and weak enemies. On foot anyway. The best place is actually that valley that we were just at. And then of course if you use that exploit I mentioned earlier, you can summon an obscene amount of abyssal riders. So you can get a shit ton of souls. Our wrath is full. We've been... Oh yeah, the crows is also... Crows are an awesome source of souls. If you see any of them around, take a shot. Now I believe at this point you guys can also challenge Sir Killington. So, look out for that. Apologies for the background noise. That is... my wife's alarm. And back to the Ashlands, where we need to be. We can't get those horse miles at the choking grounds, so we can't get them on foot at all. So back to the Ashlands. I guess we could technically get them at the choking ground because you can't ride your horse at the choking ground. So this is the area I'm talking about. So yeah, I think if you just go through here while you're fighting those abyssal riders, it'll reset the Phantom Guard in the valley. Whoa. Seems like I killed these guys faster than I normally do. So we got our like health back, right? We got at least 1 bar of HP from all that grinding over there. And let's see how good that does for us. Alright, cool. Taking these guys out pretty cleanly. We got 1 more. Missed. Really, that's War's fault because we were right there. War sometimes switches the side he swings the sword from. I don't know if that's consistent. I don't know if like he does one side then he does the other side. When they do the stomp attack, you don't want to be close to him. So there we go. Wow, that was actually pretty clean. It's almost like I got stronger. But I don't think War got any stronger. So we just got some clean hits. Not bad. That's funny. Do these guys still not respawn? That's crazy. Okay, look at that. So what was that? That was... Okay, these guys are back. move my cursor along. At some point, I'm using Sony Vegas to watch this back. At some point, it just decides to stop moving the timeline to where the cursor currently is. It does it when you first do it, but at some point it just decides to stop. So I have to like actually manually follow it. So this will be lap number 12. We got our autosave. We're gonna reload from the autosave. So this one's gonna be lap number 12. Gonna manually save that to avoid any funny business. About 8.5 hours in game time. And the grind still is okay at this point. But at a certain point, your eyes are gonna roll to the back of your head and you're gonna be like, okay, there's gotta be a better way of doing this. If you want to do it manually, what I suggest is just get some good music, play it in your headphones, and just kind of mellow out. I don't know if I had music when I was doing this at the time. I think I was just doing it raw. But I actually don't remember. Only thing I know is the of course my mic was muted during this time. Okay. So you get the most health, if you couldn't already tell, from just taking these guys out. Just taking out, you know, these foot soldiers. So that's going to be your best bet, and these guys don't do a lot of damage if they do manage to tag you. Most times they won't manage to tag you. So it looks like we're going to do a full lap, which is really like a lap and a half, kind of. The way I've been counting these laps, this should actually be like a lap and a half. Okay, we got up to 4 health bars. Really 5. So when you have the 4 skulls, that's really 5 health bars. So my technique for fighting these guys is to keep my distance, stay away from them for the most part, avoid them as long as I can, and then get one quick sword strike. Here actually that's gonna fail me a little bit because these guys are gonna have me clocked. Yeah, this is the ridge I'm talking about. Just want to get through there to hopefully respawn the enemies in the valley. I think that'll do it. If I don't just save and reload, if I go through the valley again, then you guys should be able to see if that works or not. So, but I most likely save and reload. We'll see. Okay. Actually, it's not going too badly here. I thought this is when they started lighting me up. Sounds a little bit off here. Okay, that was actually pretty clean. Save, reload. Yeah, I wish I just rode through there to show you guys. Come on, just ride, just ride, just ride. Nope, we're reloading. And this will be lap 13. And this is when, for some reason, I start counting the laps as half laps. So that's why I'm like, you guys just do whatever you want to do with these laps. It doesn't matter. Because at some point I'm like, just kill these enemies. Go all the way here and then just save and reload. Okay, we're reaching the end of our first half lap. Half lap 1 done. 13.5. That's ridiculous. Okay, we're gonna have a distance milestone coming up. Or at least for some reason, this is when I start taking the note of the distances, distance travel. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad grind. It just needs a little bit more. So if you don't want to do DLC, then I think Warmastered should have updated this area. If they, I don't know if they did. I don't know if Darksiders 1 had less enemies in this corridor, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. I'm pretty sure this grind doesn't seem to have changed at all since I first played Darksiders way back in 2011 or 2010. I don't think this grind has changed. The distance covered was 144.6 miles, if you guys hadn't caught it. I think this is when they start lighting me up. Yep. All that health I got back just swiped away. Look, so easily, just one attack, one health bar. So this pretty much was like, this pretty much taught me to stop messing with these guys. These guys are ridiculous. These guys are crazy. Again, you mostly want to keep distance, mostly use your shots, and then you want to just do hit and run style tactics. That's it. So that was a bad run for me. Normally I don't get tagged by those guys even close to as often as that. But it's kind of how you want to do it, is like keep distance and then never go near them when they're doing that stomp attack. Of course, that thing has a crazy hitbox on it. Other than that, I don't know. I actually don't know why I'm getting tagged so frequently here. I think it's because I am so close to them. Like if you create the distance, they're mostly gonna be focused on like shooting those fireballs. So right now I'm gonna take some time, to build my health back up, so I won't be coming back to these guys for a while. This is the HP farming section of the playthrough. Quite a bit of HP farming here. This is the 14th lap, by the way. So 14 laps in about 15 minutes. Sorry, 50 minutes. So, the topic I want to bring to you guys, I've mentioned this so many times recently. So I mentioned it in the Darksiders 4 wishlist video. I mentioned it in the top 10 reasons to love Darksiders 1 video. And I'm going to bring it up in this video too. Would you guys have liked to see, or to have seen, a Darksiders 1 DLC? Now, I love the fact that Darksiders 1 is a complete game and doesn't even really need DLC, right? I love that. I love that for Darksiders 1. Makes me feel really good, makes me look back on that era of gaming and realize that Darksiders 1 is one of the few at that point to not do DLC. Is one of the few at that era, in that era of games, to make gaming still feel like it did during the PS2 era and before. Darksiders 1 in all its glory feels like a high definition, high fidelity PS2 game, and that is in no way an insult. To me, that's like the highest praise, because that's my era of gaming. But yeah, it doesn't have DLC. But the main reason I'm wanting the DLC is for this damn horse riding achievement. To be completely honest with you, I think it could make this achievement, this trophy, way more natural, right? Because in the base game, that's the weakest part of the base game, is you barely get to use the horse. You get to use it for the final fight. You get to use it briefly in this area. Do a little bit of traversal. But not really. You don't really get to use it. Not like Darksiders 2, where you get the horse for the whole game. And you need it. You know, you need the horse for the entirety of Darksiders 2. So it looked like these guys respawned like in the middle of us kind of take them all out. We hit like I think we hit a respawn point here. But yeah, I think Darksiders 1 could use actually a few DLC campaigns, just like Darksiders 2. I think if it had like 2 or 3 campaigns, just like Darksiders number 2, it'd be actually really good. But I think at the very least one DLC campaign focused on some type of arena or like gauntlet would be really cool. I think one DLC would need to be focused on the horse for sure. In one DLC, maybe like a Crucible type thing, so that all the horsemen would have encountered the Crucible. I mean, technically all the horsemen have encountered a version of the Crucible, because War and Strife did it in Genesis, and then Death did it in Darksiders 2, Fury did it in Darksiders number 3. Yeah, man, I'm campaigning for some Darksiders 1 DLC. Cause man, I just want future generations to not have to suffer through this horse riding fiasco. But then again, I guess you shouldn't care about trophies as much. For me, the trophies actually enhance Darksiders 1. Like, it's not like I wouldn't try to collect all the collectibles in this game, but it just gives you a little bit of extra stuff to do in this game. A few extra challenges that are actually really fun in some cases. Like, I like the idea of this trophy of riding the horse a certain number of miles. However, to me it makes more sense in like a GTA, right? Because in GTA you're always in a car, so it makes sense that you'd eventually reach a milestone for driving your car in a natural way. But the horse riding achievement is so unnatural. It's such an unnatural achievement because you only ride the horse canonically about 1/10 of the time it takes to get this trophy. And a 10th might even be generous. I'm quite sure that's generous. I'm quite sure if you just played the game, you would not ride your horse. Maybe even 1/10 of how much you do it to get this trophy. But yeah, that's my pitch for Darksiders 1 DLC. Again, like some type of horse riding gauntlet, something you kill a bunch of enemies on and you get a lot of distance on, maybe like a boss fight, maybe like more Stygian boss fights. That would be pretty cheap, but DLC that's only focused on Stygian boss fights, but something similar, right? Just something fun for horseback. Maybe like you have to stop some type of demon train. I don't know. But okay, we are at... I am so surprised. We already got that trophy. We're actually supposed to be talking about other topics. So I'm going to introduce a brand new topic. We passed the lap 15 mark. So I'm going to mention the laps like after every... maybe 5, like in intervals of 5, like 15, 20, 25. So the topic I want to cover now is my favorite Darksiders game. So if you guys would, because I'm curious about how you guys feel about Darksiders, let me know your favorites in the series in order. Basically, I'm asking you to rank your favorites in the series. So, typically for most people, it's gonna either be 2 or 1 first. And that's gonna be the hardest choice you make on this list. Does Darksiders 2 come before Darksiders 1, or is Darksiders 1 the best of all time? For me, 2 and 1 is a very difficult choice. To me, they're equally as good in different ways. And that's what I love about Darksiders, is that because the games are different enough, they're similar but different enough, you can actually rank them equally in a lot of cases, because one has something that the other doesn't have. So if you were to ask me this question just after I played Darksiders 2, which Darksiders game is my favorite between the first and the second one, I would have said the first one hands down. I wasn't the biggest fan of Darksiders 2 when it first came out. I actually struggled to complete it when it first came out. I lost focus while playing the game, and I actually dropped it for a little while. I dropped it for like at least a couple of months, if not a year. I don't know exactly how long that was, but it was at least a couple of months. Like I went out of my way to pre-order it and all that, and I think I got it around the same time as I don't know, did it come out around the same time as like Borderlands 2 or Resident Evil 6? I pre-ordered all 3 of those games, and I ended up playing all 3 of them. I want to actually see right quick what was the release dates on those 3, because I bought 2 of them around the same time actually. So Darksiders 2 release date. Darksiders 2 is August 14th, 2012. Borderlands 2 release date. Borderlands 2 is September 18th. So I think I got Borderlands 2 and Darksiders 2 around the same time, maybe. Of course, I ended up playing Borderlands 2 like a shit ton. Borderlands 2, I got completely lost in that game. So I think I might have put down Darksiders 2 to play that. Let me also see when Resident Evil 2 came out, because I might have got this. I mean, sorry, Resident Evil 6. I might have got Resident Evil 6 at the same time as Darksiders 2. So these are 3 releases that came out like one right after the other. It was so August 14th was Darksiders 2, September 18th was Borderlands 2, and August 2nd was Resident Evil 6. So I put Borderlands 2 down for quite some time and didn't pick it up for a couple of months. So I now see the reason why I didn't pick it up, because I was too busy playing Borderlands 2 and Resident Evil 6. Which those 2 games, I played those and I never put those down until I beat them. And I continued to play those games with other people. So for years and years, I played Resident Evil 6 and Borderlands number 2. So, yeah. So my first time playing through Darksiders 2, wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was too unfocused. But really, I was too unfocused at the time to really enjoy what it was. And I would complain about the game with my best friend. We both complained about it a lot. Like, why are we like a errand boy? We're playing as Death. Why are we an errand boy for like everybody? We're like everybody's fetch bitch. So that was kind of my reason for not really enjoying it, was because it felt like I wasn't really playing as Death. I guess I had expectations of what Death should be, and those weren't met initially. So after I put it down for some time, I came back to it those months later, or however long it took me to come back to it, I'm not sure. Once I finally came back to it, and I just played it without no heavy expectations, anything like that. I kind of just enjoyed it for what it was. It was a really damn good time. Like, I found myself really enthralled by the whole thing. And in this case, I couldn't put the game down. Like, I was the game loop was so addictive, the gameplay was so addictive, and I was actually enjoying Death's character more and more, even though I still didn't like the idea of being like a fetch bitch. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, War is also kind of a fetch bitch, and Darksiders number 1 is just less obvious, because you're always getting like really overpowered shit for just doing, you know, doing stuff for Samael. Like, you get this power here, this power there, and it doesn't feel like, I think my problem with Death was that it felt like typical RPG fetch bitch stuff, but you're playing as like the embodiment of Death. And it's like everybody's telling you to, like, in one mission, Darksiders 2, you're literally getting a dish for one of the youngest makers. Like, he is a side mission, but he loses a dish in this dungeon. You have to get a dish for this guy. I think it's meant to be funny, but it's just, you know, one of those situations where it's like, okay, this kind of sucks. I'm playing as Death. I should be doing more badass stuff than finding a dish. But once you let all that shit go, and you really enjoy the game for what it is, for me, it became my favorite in the series. It took a long time for it to become my favorite in the series. It actually took until I made that walkthrough. Like, once I made that walkthrough at Darksiders number 2, it became my favorite game. And I made that walkthrough like 2019, 2020. I think I started in like 2018 or 2019 and finished in like 2020. Once I made that walkthrough of Darksiders 2, I saw it for what it was. It is a absolutely brilliant game. It takes what Darksiders 1 does, and it puts it in a RPG format. Like, you have quests, you have quest givers, you have equipment, you have different weapons that you can equip, and the weapons are like kind of expendable in a way. Like in a typical RPG, like, you'll get a weapon, it'll be fine for a while, and then you have to find a new weapon because that weapon's stats are like not as good. So it does all this stuff that's different from this Darksiders, And to some degree, it feels absurd. It's like, why are we getting new weapons for Death? He's Death, and his scythe like regenerates. Like his scythe like transforms and shit. So why does he need pickups? Why does he need gear? It's kind of silly in a way, but it works. It works for what Darksiders 2 is going for, and I like it. I actually like it a lot, and if you really think about it, you can make it make sense in the lore or whatever. Like Death's weapon does transform, and that's what's happening is Death's scythe is transforming into all these different modifications, you can call them. Like it can become a hammer, it can become a scythe, it can become claws, basically. I think that's how I look at it. I don't know if that's exactly true, but you can tell in cutscenes because Death's scythe can become like a double-sided scythe. It could become two separate scythes. You can do a lot with Death's scythes. It can become one big scythe. So I think the weapon can just transform. So in terms of these two, the way I'll rank them nowadays, it can still go back and forth. But Darksiders 2 is going to be number 1 for me, and Darksiders number 1 is going to be number 2 for me. Again, this can change on whatever day of the week it is. But for the most part, I'm going to put Darksiders 2 slightly above Darksiders 1. And it's also because I feel like a stronger connection with Death as a character. Like his journey was a bit more... It hit me in more emotions than Wars did, because Death's journey was ultimately about redeeming his brother, but it turns out it was ultimately to redeem himself as well, redeem some decisions he made in the past. So I really love that about Death's journey, and it showed me how humble he can be while being a badass. So I really appreciated that about Death's journey. And the man had his horse the whole time, and he wasn't technically depowered like War was. So, but my arguments for why Darksiders 1 could be you could still put Darksiders 1 on the level or above Darksiders 2 is because Darksiders 1 has a tighter how can I say it? It has a better pace than Darksiders 2. It has a more tight, focused idea of what it wants to be. It's just an old school game done very well, done to like the best this type of game can be done. It's masterful, really. So if you want like a tighter, more focused experience, an experience where you won't really lose interest or get bored, this one's better for that. This one absolutely kicks Darksiders' ass in that aspect, because in Darksiders 2 you can easily get unfocused, and that's what happened to me the first time I played it, because there's so much to do in there. It is an RPG. It's an action RPG, 100%. So you can easily get unfocused. You can easily forget like what the fuck you're supposed to be doing for the quest you're doing, and just like lose interest. You could be doing a side quest and get like extremely bored doing it, because it's like, why am I doing this? You can do it like finding Karn's dish. You could just start doing that and be like, fuck this, I want to find this guy's dish. So that's gonna be 159.62 distance travel. So we're making some gains. That's like 30 miles. I think more than 30 miles so far. But the first thing I clocked is a 121.45 at about the 8-minute mark. So from that point, from the 8-minute mark, we're at about 30 miles a month. But yeah, absolutely, you can honestly say Darksiders 1 is better than Darksiders 2. That's why I put them equal. But for me today, I'm gonna say Darksiders 2, Darksiders 1, Darksiders Genesis, and then Darksiders 3. So Darksiders Genesis is an awesome game. Darksiders Genesis is an awesome Darksiders game. So people won't give Darksiders Genesis any sort of credit because of the way it looks. It is a top-down game. Darksiders Genesis looks like a Diablo or something like that. I could forgive people for thinking Darksiders Genesis is a strategy game. I could forgive people for thinking Darksiders Genesis is like a, you know, like a Marvel X-Men Legends style beat 'em up. But a Darksiders Legends is a co-op Darksiders game. It plays very similarly to something like Darksiders 1. There are puzzles, there's platforming, there's even the same abilities. There's Shadow Flight. You have Death Grip from Darksiders 2 in there. You have wars. You have war with another throwing weapon. In Darksiders Genesis, it's called the Vorpal Blade, as opposed to what is it called in this one? The Crossblade. You have your horses from the start in Darksiders Genesis, right from the start. War's moveset is basically the same with some additional new moves in Genesis. He has the Blade Geyser, he has the Harpoon Tackle, he has the Flip Saw, and he has some new stuff in there too. Some stuff that would have been cool to have in this game. So Genesis, what I like about Genesis is that it breaks things up into levels. So you have a hub, which is the Serpent's is it Serpent Road? Your hub is the Serpent Road, but each level is its own self-contained thing you go into. You teleport into it. So the world isn't connected like this game, but of course that works in Darksiders Genesis's favor because you get to go to so many different parts of the universe. Actually, you get to go to places on Earth, you get to go to places not on Earth actually, which is really cool. So I highly recommend Darksiders Genesis if you guys have not played already. If you guys are scared about the camera angle, don't be. There's actually a few sections where the camera angle does absolutely suck. There's one platforming challenge in particular that I absolutely hate because of the camera angle. So HP is full, so we switch over to the Hellfire, and then the Weapon Master. So that's the note I wrote. I just wanted to make sure to tell you guys. We're actually at, I missed telling you guys we're at lap 20. We're actually at lap 22 at this point. But yeah, Genesis has really good power-ups. Genesis has a really good progression system. I love the creature core system. It feels really good and it's really fair. So enemies drop these cores, which give you additional benefits in battle. You can slot them. You can slot them on this grid. Like each demon has its own core, which does all types of crazy stuff. And depending on where you put these cores on the grid, they get more and more powerful, and they do like extra effects. And the more cores you get, the more powerful they become as well. So it's a really good system. And then you can also buy the cores from the store too. Like you can get them from the enemy drops, but you can also buy them. And if you buy them, it seems randomized when you buy them, but it's actually not randomized. When you buy them, you're buying them one at a time to max them out, and eventually you can buy the store out of creature cores, the ones you're getting. So instead of like a randomized system, it's a system where it's finite and you can actually buy all the creature cores you need in the game. It's really cool. I really love it. And then Strife's parts. Strife feels like a twitch shooter, like a twin stick shooter. I love that. War feels like war. War feels like he always does. He feels like he does in Darksiders 1 actually. But Strife is like this twin stick shooter guy, which is super dope. All right, this will be lap 23. we're gonna go back for those horsemen now that we're at full health. So the HP farm is over for now, and we're gonna move on to getting more souls for this run and having a little bit more fun. I actually do like fighting those phantom horseman dudes. They're just a little bit tanky, but I like the kind of cat and mouse, the back and forth you have with these guys. It's really cool. Yeah, these guys have wings that are now useless, which indicates that they may have been angels formerly. These may have been the initial fallen angels. Interesting. But then again, they may just be demons with useless wings. You know, they may be slowly evolving out of their wings, or they may have been Raziel'd and their wings might have been ripped off. You never know. But what they're left with is these like stubby little wings that they can't really do anything with. So let me know if you think these guys were mutilated, their wings were ripped from them, or if you think they were born like this because they are slowly evolving to not have these wings, or if they're just fallen angels. What do you guys think about these phantom guards here? But yeah, Darksiders Genesis is just an awesome game. It has its flaws. It does have its flaws. I think the camera angle does limit it. Definitely, it would 100% be better as a standard Darksiders game with the same view and all that. It would 100% be better. But for what it is awesome. And is definitely a contender for maybe the best boss fights in the series. I'll say it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. Okay, and then we get to Darksiders number 3. And Darksiders number 3 is an awesome game. Don't get me wrong. Darksiders number 3 is a very awesome game. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it too, the same way I had with Darksiders 2. Over time, with the improvements they made, I ended up really liking Darksiders 3 more than I initially did. Initially, I was of course annoyed that Fury was so squishy, so weak. I was also annoyed that Fury didn't really have much of an identity. She was supposed to be some sort of mage. That's what they were saying before the game came out. I forget. There were some interviews out where they described Fury as the mage of the group. I mean, you play her and she's not really a mage. She doesn't really... feels like she doesn't do anything unique. And then all the power she gets from like the Lord of the Hollow. So but I'm not upset with the idea of her game being a Souls-like. Although being that depowered as a horseman without a story reason is kind of crazy. I feel like they should have like depowered her somehow to explain why life was basically a Souls-like for her, as opposed to War and Death, who are these friggin' forces of nature. Fury, who controls nature in her game, struggles to just do things they could do at the start of their games. So that was my problem with that. I thought the idea of Darksiders 3 being a Souls-like was actually pretty interesting, but of course the implementation was not quite there. I think the coolest thing about a Souls-like is that you can basically customize your playthrough. You can play the game entirely different based on your starting class, or based on like the weapon choices you make. And Darksiders 3 doesn't have that sort of customization. You have various weapons in Darksiders 3. You have the base game has like, what is it, 5 weapons? You have, because each hollow has its own weapon, so you have fire, ice, gravity, and electricity, or lightning. And hold on right quick, what'd that say? So we're coming up on 170 distance travel. I missed how much distance that was, but in a couple minutes we'll be at 170 miles traveled. But Fury has all these elements, and each element is tied to a weapon. So she has base game 5 weapons, including her whip. And then with the DLC, she has, I believe, 9 weapons, because each element weapon has a variant to it. So she has all these weapons. However, the weapons don't really change your playstyle at all. So some people have, some really skilled players have managed to make Darksiders 3's combat look like Devil May Cry, or like an older Darksiders game, by doing this thing called like weapon switching. It's like a high level Darksiders 3 technique to switch weapons. There's various combos to switch you between the weapons, and so there is some built-in ability into the game to allow you to like play the game a little bit more aggressively. And I'm so glad these players have figured that out. However, like, the game doesn't really teach you how to do this. And so most people's experience with the game, including my own, is that you're playing a very slow version of Darksiders, where you have to dodge enemy attacks before you can get your good stuff off. Like, your strongest attacks are going to come after you dodge and counter an enemy's attack. The game, on its face, doesn't reward aggression. You're heavily penalized for aggression in Darksiders. Number 3. That's not to say that you strictly have to just focus on dodging and retaliating. You don't. Even when I play, I don't always rely on that. I am as aggressive as the game allows me to be, which isn't a lot, but I am as aggressive as I can be without knowing all these like weapon switching combos. But still, even with that, I felt so underpowered for the majority of Fury's game. And I felt like the combat, because the combat still has the weaknesses that the other games in the series do. One thing about Darksiders 1 especially, but 2 suffers from this too, and 3 definitely suffers from this, is that the enemy hitboxes are crazy. The enemy hitboxes kind of make no sense. In a lot of cases, they're definitely way too big for most enemies, I think. And then the tracking on enemy attacks is just absurd in a lot of cases. So Darksiders 3 has that issue, but it's a Souls-like. So each hit that they do counts. And so like if you're dodging and you're getting tagged still by these attacks, like the enemy can be lunging at you and you dodge out the way, and their lunge will still track you in some cases in Darksiders 3. So because each hit matters, Fury herself can only endure about maybe 3 hits in some cases. 3 hits is actually really good for her. Most times it's like, for most enemies it's like 2 hits. But she can survive about 2, 3, if we're stretching it, maybe 4 hits at any given time. So this is, of course, these are the harder difficulties. But I only play Darksiders on the harder difficulty, so take that for what you will. Maybe they rebalance 3 in a way that the easier difficulties would have it play more similarly to the classic Darksiders game. But I only play Darksiders these days on the hardest difficulty. That's how I play these games. So for normal mode, let me know you guys' experience for like all the different Darksiders games. I haven't played a Darksiders game on normal mode and I don't know how long. Could not tell you. Might be lit up here. Okay, almost did. But the problems with Darksiders 3 were apparent as soon as you played it. It's like, dude, this isn't a Darksiders game. I don't even get my horse. That's the only Darksiders game you do not get to ride a horse in. Of course, Darksiders 3 was under budget compared to the previous two games. Definitely a budget title. As was Genesis, but Genesis kind of adjusted its scope. So those are my main complaints about Darksiders 3, right? And those are the same complaints that most people have. The story also wasn't quite as strong as the first two. Fury's deal was cool, but it was a little too juvenile for me. Her whole thing was a bit too juvenile for me. Like, her brothers are all like trying to save the world or redeem themselves or redeem like a really bad decision they made in the past, or not a bad decision, but a really regretful decision they had in the past. Like death with the Nephilim. Like, these are really hard-hitting concepts, ideas. And Fury's was just like, okay, I want to be better than my brothers. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool, but it doesn't have the same weight as the other things. And to me, it doesn't even have the same emotional weight as the things that Death and War have to go through. So even the story for me didn't quite hit. Like, it was okay. I love the sins. And I love how Fury embodied each of the sins. Like, how she connected to each of the sins. Like, I loved all that. But it didn't quite hit. It wasn't quite as strong as the first two games with the story either. So that's just another reason why it didn't hit for me like the first two did. All that said, I'm a big fan of Darksiders 3. I love Darksiders 3. I love playing Darksiders 3. I love going through and exploring that world. I love the fact that that world doesn't have a map. Do I think the game needs a map? I do think it needs a map ultimately. But me, as a person who explores the world in these games, I'm okay that it doesn't have a map. One thing to realize too is that Darksiders legendarily has been really not very good with maps. The map in this game and the map in Darksiders 2 are useful. You can use them to navigate. The one in this one more than Darksiders 2. I think Darksiders 2 probably has the worst map in the series. I mean, it's useful. You can get some use out of it, but the one in this game is more useful than that. And the one in Genesis is actually pretty good. I actually like the map in Genesis. The Genesis world map and area map, really area map. The Genesis area map is the best map in the series. Because it maps like most of the items, like I think like 80% of the items are on the map in Genesis. Boy, oh boy, the items that aren't on the map, annoying. But everything's pretty much on the map, and the position makes sense, and it shows your position in comparison to everything. So that map's the best. But I'm not upset that Darksiders 3 doesn't have a map, because it doesn't really need one for players like me. But for like players who get lost easily in these games, yes, I do recommend having a map, because I think those players would enjoy the game more if the game had a map. But again, for me personally, the way I play games, Darksiders 3 is like action adventure perfection. Maybe perfection is too strong of a word, but it's a really good Metroidvania. Like, the levels, I think they were definitely heavily inspired by Dark Souls number 1, because it has that same sort of level design, that wraparound level design, but it's mixed with like more classic Metroidvania principles. Like, it's mixed with that like traversal. Like you get traversal, and you get a new, you get a new ability. And now you can make this jump. Now that you have double jump, now you can get to like a higher cliff. Now that you have glide, you can get to like this lower cliff that's like across a chasm or whatever. Now that you have like this gravity power, you can like roll along the side of the mountain. Now that you have like this stasis power, you can walk on water and you can get to like, areas that are across a body of water. So Darksiders 3, the action adventure parts of Darksiders 3 feel very fucking good. Probably the best in the series, to be honest. Like the traversal in Darksiders 3 actually does feel better than Darksiders 1. I'm trying to think if it does feel better in Darksiders 2 as well. I think to some degree it feels better than Darksiders 2 traversal, but not quite as smooth. Like Fury doesn't have like wall run, for instance, right? Now if she had like, her wall run is like the gravity thing where she has to like summon the giant gravity ball and then roll across. That's her wall run. But she can't just like jump on the wall and just run across it. So not quite as smooth as like Darksiders 2, but I love all the stuff she has in her kit. Her kit's awesome. And it feels good to traverse, to find new areas, to go back to old areas, to unlock stuff. Because now you can walk on water, or you can glide, or you can double jump. It all feels awesome. So, to be honest, Fury didn't need the horse in her game. She definitely didn't. And the fact that she doesn't have her horse makes perfect sense. It just does diminish her as a horseman. That's really all people are upset about. It does diminish her as a horseman because every other game, everybody else has a horse. That's why, and it makes it feel unlike a Darksiders game. Because that's one thing that united all the other games is the fact that they all have horse gameplay. But her game doesn't really need it, and she has a run button. She has a flip and run button. That's one thing that always like grabs me is when a game has good platforming controls, which Darksiders 3 has, and it has a run button, so you can move around faster. So although Fury's run isn't like incredibly fast, like she could stand to be like a little bit faster. But I love it. And after a while, even the combat in Darksiders 3 becomes like you get used to it. I still think the combat's the weakest part of Darksiders 3. Maybe once I learn how to use like the weapon switching thing to like do these crazy stylish combos, maybe then I'll be like, okay, the combat's like actually pretty good. But for now, for me, like the combat isn't even really at the Souls level, which the Souls level is solid for what it is. But, the Souls level is like, very clunky and stuff like that. So I think Darksiders wouldn't want to replicate the Souls combat. I think Darksiders would want to stick to what it's already doing, but maybe do things a little bit differently. Like if it wants to do Souls. So with Fury, I think she should have had more to do. I think she should have had a block button. She should have had more than the whip dash, the whip dodge. They should have gave her more options. They should have gave her like the ability to block. 100%. I think she's missing that. And what else? I think mostly just giving her the ability to block would help out a lot for most players. Or doing something more interesting with the whip dodge. I think more could have been done with it. I'm trying to think of a game that did dodging like really well. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, Devil May Cry did some crazy stuff with dodging. The Trickster. The Trickster and the teleporting in Devil May Cry. I think they could have upped Fury's kit to give her like some crazy teleportation stuff. Like that would have been badass. Oh, he tagged me. Yeah, I think that's one thing Fury needed was a little bit more mobility in combat. The dodging was cool, but it really didn't put her... I feel like it didn't even put her on like even footing with her brothers, because War has blocking and dodging. His dodging isn't that strong, but no, you know what? War has blocking, dodging, and he has a block counter, like a parry ability. So he has 3 things. Death just has dodging, but Death's dodge also comes with like his Reaper. Like his Reaper comes out. So we can do this like perfect dodge situation. Which is, I mean, I guess that's the same thing that Fury does in a way. But Death's dodging is like, I think, does Death have more dodges than she has? Maybe they're just the exact same. But I actually enjoy the movement in Darksiders #2 more than I enjoy it in Darksiders 3. I think because they force you to dodge in 3. The way the enemies are like attacking you, you have to dodge to like get the slow-mo to actually fight them effectively. But I do like the options you get. I do like the fact that you have these weapons. I do like the fact that like that enhancement system's awesome. I love the enhancements. Like you can really build your own custom Fury that feels completely different from how somebody else would build Fury. And the fact that each weapon, you get the passives for the different enhancements by just putting them in different weapons is also a top tier choice. I'm super glad they did that. Alright, we just passed lap number 30. This will be lap number 31. That'll be 178.02 distance traveled. So, yeah, we're moving our way through this playthrough. I'm getting really into talking about the games. Well, yeah, is there anything else to say about 3? There's a ton, but in comparison to the other ones, I do think the decision to make it a Souls-like wasn't the best, but I think it could have worked if they tweaked it more. If they just made her abilities more interesting, because again, the coolest thing about the Souls games are just the depth of options they give you in terms of combat. In the Souls games, you can even change how you dodge. Even in like Dark Souls 1, you can get the ring that allows you to flip, like ninja flip. As ridiculous as that ring is, it changes your dodge. It changes the way you dodge. So like there's that. There's how the different levels of how weight affects your dodge. So you have different dodges. You have like this heavy dodge. You have a dodge with way more iframes. Darksiders 3 does that as well. It gives you like these enhancements that increase the timing window on your dodge ability, your evasion ability. But it's the implementation, man. And then like in Bloodborne, for instance, you get that that thing that makes it so that you can like do this miss dash. Like instead of doing like the normal dodging, you could do like this crazy like miss dash with more iframes. So they didn't do enough with the movement for me in Darksiders 3, because the movement is supposed to be like her bread and butter. Like she's supposed to be the evasive one. That's the big selling point of the combat, is the whip dodge. And to me, they also didn't do enough with her whip in combat. Like I feel like there should have been like an option to like grab enemies and throw them into each other, or do all types of crazy like acrobatics and repositioning and traps. Think more like Ivy from Soul Calibur. Like they definitely should have took more of Ivy's moveset from Soul Calibur to make Fury much more interesting by default. Before she even gets the hollows, they should have just gave her like more magic to do with her whip blade, her spell blade. They should let you set traps. This should let you like bind enemies, do all types of crazy stuff. But yeah, that's my main gripe. Is I find the traversal in that game to be the best in the series. Actually, they have some really good traversal in that game, and they have some really good level design. Don't let anybody shit on the Darksiders 3 level design. It's actually really good. I'm trying to think if it's better than these two games, than Darksiders 1 and Darksiders 2. I don't think it's better, but I think it's just as good as these two games. Because Darksiders 1 is good for a different reason, because it's like a traditional Zelda-like, where it has this overworld, and then it has these hubs for dungeons. And Darksiders 2 is the same way, but bigger. And the dungeons are more obvious. The dungeons look like dungeons in Darksiders 2. And the Darksiders 3... Darksiders 3 is Dark Souls, right? Like even the way the level design is set up. I think Darksiders 3 is like Dark Souls 1 meets a typical Zelda game. Because you do have your overworld in Darksiders 3, but then you do have things that obviously look like dungeons, I think. So Darksiders 3 is really interesting. It's like Dark Souls 1 meets like a standard Metroidvania meets a Zelda-like. That's what I feel like. So I put the level design for Darksiders 3 on par with the other two games, or maybe even a little bit better, maybe even a tad bit better. I don't know. I got to think about that one. I think I'm gonna say it. I think I'm gonna say Darksiders 3. Cause I love Metroidvania level design. Chaoseater level up. That's gonna be our final level, level 4 of Chaoseater. So we're done leveling this bad boy up. Done. Maxed out. On episode 8 of all the episodes. Okay. Alright, so I'm not going to put it above Darksiders 1 and 2. I'm going to say Darksiders 1, Darksiders 2, and Darksiders 3 have level design on par with one another. They're all equally as good. So that's my ranking for the Darksiders games. I don't think there's anything else I want to say about the rankings. I think I kind of made my point for each one. And again, that's Darksiders 2, Darksiders 1, Darksiders Genesis, Darksiders 3. If you ask me again next week, it's very possible I might say Darksiders 1, Darksiders 2, Genesis, Darksiders 3. The only thing that's going to change is those top two games, because they are equally as good in my eyes for different ways. I think, okay, one more thing I'll say about Darksiders 3. What could put Darksiders 3 on their level is, again, they have to overhaul the combat a bit, make it a little bit more interesting. And then they have to, and this is arbitrary, but they would have to give you the horse. They would have to give you the horse to put it on the same level as these. I don't know why I'm thinking that. That feels unfair. Because they can't give you the horse. They can't because of story reasons. So if they couldn't put the horse in, would the combat fix be the ultimate fix? I think the combat fix in a map would change it. Because the combat's my like worst aspect of Darksiders 3. So combat fix the map and if they could smooth out some other things with the game. They could smooth out some other things. The Gluttony boss fight, for one. Gluttony boss fight was total ass. So if they could fix that Gluttony boss fight, that could put it. I still think it wouldn't be like on the same level as the first two games, but it would be like, it could be like a close number 3. A really, really close number 3. But okay, we're gonna move on to the next subject. Before we do that, I think we just missed the milestone because I'm so obsessed with talking about these games. Distance travel was 182.12, and we're gonna head into. We're currently on lap number 33. We're gonna head into lap 34 pretty soon, and I'll give you guys the update on the distance travel once we hit there. Okay, switching back to the Bloodlust, get some HP back. I'm pretty much cycling between Bloodlust, combat lore. Well, I don't need combat lore now. Bloodlust and Reaper, basically those two. And there we go. That's gonna be 183.69 miles traveled so far. So we're closing in. We have an hour more to go, or a little bit less than an hour. So there's a couple ways to tackle the next topic. Next topic is with the Horsemen themselves. So we could tackle it in different ways. We could tackle it in terms of the strongest horseman, and we could tackle it in terms of favorite horseman. I think I'll do a quick ranking of the horsemen in order of strength, because this is another interesting debate. Let me know how you guys feel about your ranking of the horsemen in terms of strength. Just overall strength. Let's just say strength. Strength and combat ability. We're going to combine those two. Strength and combat ability. Let's rank the horsemen. So, for me, from strongest to weakest, we're going to go Death, War, Fury, Strife. So I'm wondering, is that controversial for any of you guys? Death, War, Fury, Strife. Is that how you rank them? Do you rank War above Death? Do you rank Strife above Fury? Does it make sense as is, or? So I have a lot of reasons for doing that ranking. But before I go into that, what I'll also go into is who's the leader of the group. This is another controversial one. So you guys, go ahead. I'm going to give you time to put who you believe is the leader of the group out of all the horsemen. So we have the strongest. We're answering the question of the strongest. Now we're asking who is the leader of the horsemen. Now, if you put that the horsemen don't have a leader, you actually are probably correct. That's actually a really good answer. And right before I continue, this next lap here, once I reload, it's going to be lap number 35. Well, yeah, if you put the horsemen have no leader, you're probably correct. I think that makes the most sense, right? Each horseman is pretty autonomous. Like, especially if you go with what you see in the games, the Horsemen just kind of do what they want to do. They each get their own solo orders from the council. So I think that's a fair assessment to say that there is no leader. However, there is evidence. If we look at the outside materials, there is evidence. And there is just a slight bit of evidence in-game that there may be at least a hierarchy in terms of which horsemen have slightly more authority over the others. So, well, I'm going to say that, make a definitive statement that that death is the leader of the horsemen. So, if you disagree with me, just give me a chance to explain. Okay, before I go into why death is the leader of the horsemen, I'm gonna so how should I cover that? I want to cover who's the strongest and who's the leader. Okay, I'll just cover why death is the leader. So there's outside materials and there's materials inside the game. There's like description and things like that put death as the eldest of the horsemen. Death is the older brother. Does that automatically make him the leader? No, it does not automatically make him the leader. It doesn't automatically make him the strongest horseman either. However, if I go with things from the comics and things from the book Darksiders Abomination Vault, which are admittedly, I believe this stuff's non-canon now at this point, unfortunately. Abomination Vault was so good. It should be canon. It was so good. It even tied in one of the extra weapons in Darksiders that you get in Darksiders 2, the Mortis. It tied into Darksiders Abomination Vault. So I hope one day they do make Abomination Vault canon. But one thing we learned in Abomination Vault is that not only is death the eldest of the horsemen, is that death is from an era of horsemen that are way more ancient than the era that his currently existing brothers and sisters are from. We're talking about he's alive for like eons longer than War, Fury, and Strife. War, Fury, and Strife are like the babies of the Nephilim, whereas Death is like one of the first Nephilim ever created. Like there was Absalom was the very first Nephilim, and from Absalom came Death's generation. So Death is like so old. He's old enough that he's probably forgotten more information than like War and Fury and Strife even know. So this is lap 36, 185.54 miles traveled. So Death in the Abomination Vault he has so much knowledge that he could create these weapons called the Abominations. And these weapons were created from the remains of a dead race, a race that rivaled the Nephilim. And these weapons, like, they were living weapons that had the power to destroy existence. They're weapons with the power to destroy existence in its entirety. And these weapons had to be sealed away. And only Death knows, like, only Death knows about these, like Death and like a few others, but Death knows like the location, where they're sealed, blah blah blah. So this is information that changes like the whole fabric of existence, and Death is like behind these things. But in Abomination Vault, it's just told to us just quite simply, plain and simple, that Death is the eldest and most powerful of the horsemen. It's just stated. And we see certain things in the comics as well, where there's like a conflict between the siblings, the Horseman siblings, and War goes berserk, and he's like uncontrollable. It's like a berserker rage, like the Norse berserkers, right? So War's in this berserker state, and he's just threatening to just destroy everything around him. And Death has no choice to stop his brother, other than to do whatever he can to stop this guy. And so Death, the reason War has this big, bulky arm is because Death is the reason he's missing an arm in the first place. Death took War's arm. And now War has, I think this is a, what could you call that? A prosthetic. Pretty sure War has a prosthetic arm. So, I mean, you can say that maybe War wasn't in his right mind. That sort of thing. But yeah, he took War's arm. So, but I guess I'm mixing two things up. So, these are things that point to him being the strongest horseman, right? Most knowledgeable horseman. But the elder part, the knowledge he has, gives him points for being like the leader too. But the main thing that points to him being the leader is that he's pretty much referred to as such in Abomination Vault. He's pretty much referred to as leader. Like, he's the de facto ones that the horsemen go to. And it's not like an obvious thing. It's not he's like calling meetings or something like that, but the way the horsemen kind of defer to him, it just shows that he's, you know, he's that guy. He's the guy that they need the information from. He's the guy that they confer to on these big events. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he's directly referred to as leader in Abomination Vault. I have to get the I have to reread that book to get the passages just to prove that though. But yeah, Abomination Vault pretty much just opened my eyes as to how dope Death is. Like, Death is crazy awesome. So in terms of power, like, War physically is the strongest. Death isn't reaching War's level of strength, like pure strength, right? I don't even think Death can lift up cars. Like, War's seen effortlessly lifting up cars and buses and all this stuff. But Death doesn't really do that in his game. There's some opportunities for him to lift cars in Darksiders 2. He just doesn't have that. He just doesn't do that. So I think physically, War is going to be the stronger horseman. Undoubtedly. I think skill-wise, in terms of combat, these two are going to be about equals. I think War is more of a tank, but I think Death is, in his own right, a little bit tanky. I think Death is more tanky for sure than Fury and Strife. Which kind of doesn't make sense. You think that Fury would be, you know, like the second tankiest of the horsemen. But her own game makes her out to be squishy, and her own cutscenes in her game also make her out to be a bit more squishy than even Death. So, but we've also seen, we've seen War in Darksiders 1 face a mirror version of himself, and he defeated himself. And we've seen Death in Darksiders 2 face a mirrored version of War, conjured by the Crowfire. Again, this isn't War himself, but we can likely use this as a gauge to how a fight between them could go. And it was a very even sort of fight, but Death, it wasn't a fight that Death sweated over. like Death didn't push himself in that fight. So I think two things are true for that Crowfather fight. I think Death didn't have the hardest time in the world against that version of War, and I also think Crowfather's version of War isn't quite as strong as the original War. When I say that, I mean it'll be the same situation as War versus himself in Eden, where War would defeat himself. Maybe not easily, but he would defeat himself. So I put both brothers above these fake wars, essentially. And what Abomination Vault kind of does is Abomination Vault also puts Death a step above War combat wise. So I'll have to get those passages for you guys, but Abomination Vault, it just, I don't know if it was the writer or what, but they did such a job of like putting putting Death on this level above all the other horsemen that I was like, is that right? Like, is that right? Like, how can he be this much better than the rest of them? But that's my pitch for why Death is like the strongest horseman of them all and why he's the leader of them all. I'll have to come with more receipts for you guys because I'm like kind of providing information about a book I read like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I'll definitely have to come back with the full video to give you guys the receipts on that. But that's pretty much how I look at it. Now, if we're asking a question of who's my favorite horseman, it'll be very similar. It'll actually go the same as my favorite games in the series. It'll go Death, War, Strife, and Fury. If you go with, so if it was like me choosing Darksiders 1 over Darksiders 2 in my favorite Darksiders game list, I would still find Death to be my favorite horseman. And that's mostly because of Abomination Vault. If I never read Abomination Vault, I think it would be a lot more close. I think Death and War would be a lot more close. But I would still put Death above War. Death has this aesthetic that reminds me of Raziel from Soul Reaper, which is one reason I always gravitated towards Death. His design, at least, because he just always had this like, you know, like Angel of Death and Reaper like feel to him. Of course, he has a Reaper feel to him. He's Death. Distance we just traveled was 192.49 miles. We're at the 2-hour mark. We actually don't have much longer to go. So the grind is real. How are you guys handling the grind? Have you guys opted to just do the tape the controller method for your own playthrough? As much as I dreaded making this, like just commentating over such a boring thing, as much as I dreaded making this, I'm actually having a lot of fun just talking Darksiders. If I ever do this again, like record the grind or stream it, then I have to have some more topics ready. This is a lot of fun though. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. If you've read Abomination Vault especially, let me know what you think, because I think a lot of you guys, my memory's not the best as is, so I'm not gonna remember all the details properly unless I write them down, which I haven't. But let me know what you guys think. Again, I think if you say that there's no leader of the horsemen, I think that's fine. I think that makes sense. If you guys think War is the strongest horseman, I think that makes sense too. If you guys think Strife is the strongest, I could weirdly see that. I guess I should talk about that too, is like the rankings of Strife and Fury. I think Fury is definitely an interesting one to talk about when ranking strength. So Strife is a glass cannon. I think Strife has the potential to do a lot of damage, like an assassin with like a high caliber sniper rifle. But like if he's ever caught and has to face you physically, then he will struggle. I think he's not even half as strong as his brothers. But I think Fury, even though I think her durability isn't quite as high as her brothers, and I think the way Fury and Strife are presented, they're always a step below War and Death. By the way, this is lap 39, and our distance cover is 194.23 miles. So Fury and Strife are always displayed as a step below their brothers. And they're roughly, it doesn't matter how, like what form of media you put them in, they're mostly always together, these two siblings. And they're mostly always displayed as like the weaker two of the four. To some degree, even if it's like a little bit weaker or a lot weaker, they're always displayed as like the weaker two. And it wasn't until Darksiders 3 that Fury even was able to break out on her own. She was always seen near Strife. And in 3, Strife's there as well, also. So that's interesting to me. But Fury is of the same ilk as War. They're these like big rage monsters who kind of love combat. I think to some degree all the Horsemen have a kind of bloodlust, but Fury is like, again, like very similar to War in a lot of respects. The Horsemen, so Fury and Strife are interesting because they were changed from the original biblical Horsemen to what they ended up being, and they are essentially like conflict, right? They're essentially like versions of conflict. So let's see. And this will be lap 40, 195.57 miles covered. So the biblical horsemen are war, death, famine, and conquest. Where does pestilence come in at? This pestilence isn't famine. Okay, it is conquest, war, famine, and death. So they didn't use famine. Famine is an interesting one, but they didn't use famine. Famine is a scarcity of food, of course. So I guess, of course, they probably were like, okay, famine's not cool. So famine's not cool, so we're not going to use famine. We're going to use fury instead of famine. Conquest and war are interesting. How are war and conquest different? This would be a subject I definitely need to cover like in greater detail, because this is interesting. Yeah, see, I'm used to one of the horsemen being pestilence, which is associated with disease. Plague. pestilence. Interesting. So the red horse is either war or pestilence. The red horse is black horse. So take that back. The red horse. Oh, the white horse. Okay. So the white horse is either the White Rider, so I'm reading the entry and it's all the information's like all over the place. So the white horse could be war or it could be pestilence. That's interesting. That's confusing too, because the red horse is war. Black horse is imperial oppression. The black horse is famine. And the pale horse, I always found that confusing too. You have a pale horse and you have a white horse. Like, what the heck? So the pale horse is death. So the white horse, the white horse is fury, fury or famine, or fury or pestilence. No, I think fury has the black horse, right? Fury has the black horse. So fury is also famine. That's what I said earlier. And strife is also pestilence. But also strife could be a conquest or war. So that's the interesting thing about the Horsemen, is that they did change kind of what they meant. But war and death are like the same. The two in the middle are different. But war and death, of course, we know what they are. We know what they represent. But the two in the middle are like, what is fury? How is fury different from these other aspects? You know? I guess each of the horsemen kind of feed into each other when you think about it. Like, war leads to death. Fury leads to war. And fury could also lead to strife. And strife could lead to war. War could lead to strife. More strife. Death can lead to fury, strife, or war. I guess when you think about it like that, it makes sense. Like, each thing feeds into the other thing. So that's cool. Sorry I took a moment to look that up. I was actually confused about that myself. I'm like, which horseman was which? Was strife conquest or was strife pestilence? Like, what? How does that work? But in terms of power levels, let's get back to that. Fury is a step behind war and death, in my opinion. I think she's like, to me, the reason Fury didn't quite click with me the way I wanted her to, I really wanted her to be her own thing. But the reason she didn't click with me is because Fury is like diet war. I hate to say it, war does everything Fury does but better. Like, he's this like war can be a rage monster when he wants to be. Like, he can go berserk. He can go utterly berserk and become a straight up rage monster. But he also has like this stoic sense of honor. He's like all the personifications of war, like all in one character. He's everything about war that you love and hate. Like, he's this like chivalrous knight type of guy, but he's also like feels like a mercenary. You know, he has all these qualities that you would expect from somebody who's thoroughly entrenched in war. Like even the way he fights is like it's very brutal, but it's very like elegant and technical. Like he's a really cool character with all these subtleties to him. But Fury, I feel like, isn't quite as fleshed out. Like her concept isn't quite as fleshed out, and she just comes off like die at war. She has, you know, she isn't 100% like a berserker character, like a wild berserker, but she has her moments of like, you know, just like legit fury, I guess you could say. She has like good technique in combat, but she doesn't seem like, the way she fights doesn't seem as controlled and elegant as War. She has like, she even shares some moves with him, like, you know, the flip saw. She has her own version of the flip saw. But yeah, she doesn't seem as like controlled or even in some cases as precise as War. Like she is, but she's like, again, like, actually I accidentally used that. I didn't mean to use that consumable. But she's like, everything War does, she does it, but not as, like, I think more subtly or not as interesting. Like, I don't know. Take with that what you will, but I expected more from her from seeing her in the comics. Like, I was like, okay, she's gonna be cool. She's gonna have some like interesting powers, maybe some magic. Her whip's even different in the comics. I think her whip is more of an energy construct than it is an Ivy blade. So I was like, cool, maybe her whip can even turn into different weapons. Kind of like Kuwabara's spirit sword. So she just, I don't know, I think they diluted her when they decided to give her her own game. They diluted her a little bit. But I think what she is, before she got her hollow powers, I think what she is wasn't properly represented in Darksiders 3. But even still, if we look at her representation in Darksiders 3, then you see that, yeah, she's like die at war. She's like tough and very strong, tactical, all these things, and she's like battle hungry. She's like a battle hungry maniac. But she just doesn't have like the feats of War. And she isn't quite as imposing as War. So, and we even seen in the cutscenes, like, she's not quite as strong as he is. Maybe she is, I don't know. But anytime she's depicted, it's always like with Strife and never alone, or never like taking on something, you know, by herself. But her game actually did a really good job of, like, you know, she took on all the sins completely by herself, like just annihilated those things. So yeah, I do put her definitely higher than Strife. I think she's physically much more imposing than Strife. I think Strife he's like the glass cannon. He's like the ranged character. So I think Fury is more of a hybrid. Interviews said that she was supposed to be like a mage type character, but she's not a mage, so she's not as squishy as a mage. Theoretically, in her game, that's questionable. So she's more of, I think, a hybrid, more of like a Spellblade type fighter. So I think she has the constitution of a technical fighter, like a dex fighter, and she has some points, I guess, you know, put into magic, maybe a little bit of points put into strength. She's like a hybrid class, whereas War is a full-on tank who does pretty good damage too. So that's pretty much how I see the Horsemen. Hopefully Darksiders 4 makes it more clear, like what the hierarchy is or where their abilities lie. If Fury is even the mage that she's supposed to be, or if she's like this hybrid Spellblade, or if she's like, you know, just a warrior, the same ilk as War. So hopefully Darksiders 4 gives us that lowdown. So another thing I didn't appreciate about Fury is that she's supposed to be the mage, right? But she has less original magic, because all her magic comes from the hollows. She has less original magic than both death, and get this, less original magic than war. War has like 4 spells here that are like really powerful, and she has less than that. So, okay, I'm done crapping on Fury. I love Fury, she's great, but she needs more of her own stuff in Darksiders 4. So we only got 10 more minutes, so I think what I will cover now is what I love about Darksiders in general. I think you guys can answer this question very easily, right? And I can talk about this for like an hour. I got 10 minutes, so I gotta make it very succinct. What I love about Darksiders, the thing I love the most about Darksiders is basically what I mentioned earlier. The fact that this feels like a very amazing, this feels like it could fit in that era of of PS2 action adventure games. And it would be, if this came out around the same time that we got like Wind Waker, or the same time that we got God of War, the same time that we got like Soul Reaver 2 and Devil May Cry, this would have been the best game in that era. This would have been just as elevated as those games. It feels like it brings that era back, and it encompasses that entire era, the best of that era of action adventure games, and it does it on its own terms. Like I know that it blatantly uses ideas and systems from those games, but it does it on its own terms. Like it makes everything its own, and it feels like it belongs in that era. But I'm so glad it came out in the era that it did, because look at the game, it still looks beautiful. It is very much a modern game, you know, from that time, but it's so, at this point, that era's old school. I hate to say it, because that's my era of gaming. At this point, this game is like an old school style game. Like the Zelda formula is an old school formula at this point. Not a lot of games use the Zelda formula. But I like this game's a video game as video game, but everything's intricate, like so intricately woven together that it just feels like one complete sort of thing. Like everything feels so deeply tied to one another. The combat and the story and all of that just feels so deeply tied to each other. And that's the thing I miss the most about games from this era, is everything's so fluid. Like this is such a complete experience. And that's the main thing. It's just one of the best action adventure games I've ever played. And it did it like effortlessly, without like, it didn't like overcomplicate things, right? It's a very simple game. It does everything it's supposed to do very well. And that's what I love about it. It takes all those action adventure games I've always loved. Legacy of Kain, particularly Soul Reaver, Legend of Zelda, Devil May Cry, God of War. It takes all of that stuff and it merges it into like this tremendous experience. And I'm so glad the series got to exist to 4 games. At least, well, 5 games technically. I'm glad the series got to extend itself to 5 games. I'm sure this wasn't exactly how they planned it. There were so many like studio shutdowns. There were so many like publisher changes and acquisitions, and we finally got here to where we do have the chance to get the Darksiders 4 that they promised a long time ago. The Darksiders game with all 4 Horsemen in it. But that's the main reason, man. Darksiders 1 is just a love letter, just the most perfect distillation of action-adventure titles that I have ever experienced. Like, it did everything it was supposed to do just about perfectly. So, if I go into more details, the combat's amazing, the story's amazing, the presentation is amazing. Like, all those, the top 10 reasons, I will link the top 10 reasons I love Darksiders. But those are the reasons I love Darksiders. So they haven't, I mean, Darksiders 1 and Darksiders 2 did their thing, but they haven't really made a game like that since. If they have, you guys gotta point it out. There's some really good stuff out there, don't get me wrong. There's a really good Zelda-like called what's it called? Immortals Phoenix Rising. I think I watched my friend play that. To me, it's not the level of Darksiders. Like, it looks really fun, but it's not like on this same level. But it does have like a lot of those like old school sensibilities. It is more of a collectathon though, more of like a Ubisoft type collectathon. I mean, don't get me wrong, this game is also a collectathon, but it's a different type of experience, I would say. And that's the reason I can play this game forever, essentially, and I can just try different things in it. And that's the reason I want to try different builds and stuff in Darksiders 1. So good. So good. So I did also want to cover my favorite non-Horsemen and Darksiders 1 flaws and improvements. Won't have time. I'll quickly go over my favorite non-Horsemen characters. I mean, there's 3 mainly, right? There's Samael, who's amazing, awesome voice actor, awesome, just has this presence about him. There's Ulthane, in Darksiders 1 in particular. Ulthane's a friggin' unit, hella entertaining. He lost a lot of his personality in Darksiders 3, unfortunately, but in Darksiders 1 he's a friggin' Scottish lunatic. He's not really Scottish, but he has that same sort of energy as the Scotsman from Samurai Jack. Same energy. And Volgrim's awesome. Shout outs to some of the Sins. The Sins were represented pretty well. I love all their personalities and designs. That's mostly it for my favorites. Lilith is an interesting design. She's a fun character. She's like the mystique of the series, but just haven't seen enough of her. And there's some interesting NPCs in Darksiders 2 as well. Profile is interesting, but the ones I just listed are definitely my favorites. It's always fun seeing them every time they're in the game. Triad Council is interesting, but we haven't really seen enough of them. Lord of Hollows is interesting, but not as fun as the characters I listed. Not as interesting as the characters I listed. There's our Dark Rider trophy. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this. We're nearly done, actually. We got only about 3 minutes. But we got it at the 209.87 mark. Altogether, we got 2405 in terms of kills. 2,405 in terms of kills. Total kills. I'm not sure how that compares to when we first started. You guys can go back and maybe check that out. That's going to be last episode when we technically first started with the horseback kills. But we got it after 2.5 straight hours of grinding, plus whatever grind was attached to the last episode. So Did you guys enjoy the grind? Did you guys play music? Did you guys just do the tape method, the rubber band method? Yeah, for some reason I decided to like just I think shoot these guys to death, right? No, I think I reloaded and or was that the last episode? That was the last episode, my bad. Last episode I was like shooting those guys. But yeah, this was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope I didn't ramble too hard. We got that level 4 Chaoseater. It's gonna be awesome for the next episode. We can focus on the other weapons, which is cool. Now we're gonna get our level 4 Blade Geyser. We have a lot of souls, but we're gonna save the rest for later. Alright, and that level 4 Blade Geyser comes... Well, we got it early actually. You want the level 4 Blade Geyser in time for the Black Throne, which we have at least one more dungeon before we get to the Black Throne. Which is cool. We'll have it from Silitha, which is awesome. It's a great get out of jail free card. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching today. Hopefully this episode was useful to you. Hopefully you were at least entertained by the topics provided, even if the visuals were very repetitive. So again, I would love to know what you guys, like what your strategy is for this part, like how you guys feel about it. Do you think there needs to be more DLC so that this achievement makes more sense? Do you just think that they need to half the amount of miles are required? Are you just pissed at them for not changing this damn achievement? Let me know. Get out all your frustration in the comments below. I appreciate you guys for watching. I want you guys to take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Till next time, everybody. Peace.